Hey y'all, it's Rick here with Uncommon Communion. I am recording before midnight this time. It is Wednesday. You will see this late Wednesday, early Thursday, and you might be wondering, did you miss a post from me on Wednesday? And the answer is you did not, because if you were looking for one, I didn't record one or I didn't write one. I'll tell you why in just a moment. And I'll tell you why I am recording this tonight rather than writing this. Let's begin, though, as we always begin, by recognizing, realizing, affirming, and supporting that we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of the more and each other. So, last night, about this time, as I was kind of winding down, I realized that I just didn't really have anything to say. It wasn't that I was tired or that it was too late. I've recorded at times when I was tired and it was quite late. But last night there was just nothing on my mind that I felt would be helpful and relevant to you, dear listener, dear viewer. And I don't want to just put something out just to put something out. You know, keeping a streak, keeping a promise that I'm going to try to do this every day, that's all important. I value that. And yet at the same time, I value your attention because there is nothing more important than what we give our attention to. And I appreciate that as often as you do. Maybe this is your first time, maybe you do this every day, to just give me attention for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever it might be. I greatly appreciate that. And I don't want it to be a waste of time. I wanted to record today because, man, these are tough times, right? I don't know, it's sort of like pick the thing that will bother you regarding current events. I don't need to list them here, but the list is extensive, right? I mean, 70 million people are going to lose food stamp benefits the day after, in the day after our Saturday, when the Republicans who are blocking the the continuing resolution or the budget, the Republicans refuse to negotiate, refuse to talk about health care, which people are going to lose also, and premiums are going to get jacked up. Meanwhile, the president, the dictator wannabe, is over in Asia doing all kinds of crazy stuff, looking like he is lost verbally, physically. Man, there is something very seriously wrong with him. And meanwhile, we have him or the people who are controlling him if he's not fully mentally um, there, which is a pretty scary thing to say about the most powerful man in the world, continues to order these boats to be blown up, saying that, and this is almost a quote here, that he is fine with killing people who he claims are drug runners. Now, have they given us any evidence? No. Have they given us any proof? No. It's just about their word, right? And we know how good their word is. Remember when T. Rump said that the ballroom wasn't going to, impinge on anything existing with the White House? Well, guess what, y'all? That was a lie, right? And we saw that in the destruction of the East Wing. So it is hard for me to keep hopeful in the midst of this. And yet, I have an experience like today, Wednesday, in the training that I lead that gives me a different perspective and also kind of makes me angrier too, but it gives me a different perspective. So here's the story. So I've shared with you, I work with a nonprofit that does support for intellectually and developmentally disabled folks. And one of the main things I do with my job is I lead crisis de-escalation trainings. And one of them, which started today, is a 3-day training. I usually have a larger group than 4, but today I just had 4 people. And as we often do, we go around the room and we introduce ourselves. And I ask the trainees to share a fun fact. And today's fun facts were, 3 out of the 4 were pretty interesting. Somebody said they like fish, And we talked, and I always like to follow up a little bit, right? Kind of engage them, ask a couple questions, whatever. So somebody said they liked fish. The next person, she said she liked fishing, and we kind of talked a little bit about that. Then there was a gentleman, and I forget exactly what his fun fact was. I think he wanted to be kind of goofy, and he said he liked eating fish. Right? That was his fun fact. Then we come to the fourth person. It was a young woman, a person who looks to be of African descent. Now, I should say that staff who are African immigrants, either born in Africa themselves or, first generation immigrants, that's very common with the agency that I work with. Many of our direct support professionals and other caregivers are of African descent. And it's in part because Columbus, where we live, where I live, and this agency operates, has a large, unusually large, significantly large, nationally relative African population. So having a woman of her background is not surprising. But what she shared was, she said that she was raised in a refugee camp. And I said, wow, you know, that is quite something. And I said, well, where, she said it was in Africa. I said, where in Africa was it? And she said it was in Tanzania. And didn't know what to ask her. I didn't want to put her on the spot. I didn't want to seem like, oh, wow, that's really incredible. I didn't want to say, was it hard? Tell us about it. I didn't feel any of that would be appropriate. And maybe I'll follow up with her one-on-one. I will be seeing her for 2 more days. And there may be a time when I just privately ask her about it, thank her for sharing that, ask her about it. And maybe I'll learn more, and maybe I'll share more here as well. But what I think is significant about this, y'all, is a couple of things. Is number one, it's a reminder that we never know the history that someone is carrying around, right? When we look at someone on the street, when we're next to someone in the line, when we're wherever we might be, where that stranger is, right? Somebody we don't know, or even somebody we might know kind of, right? The woman or the man that checks us out at our coffee or whatever. We never know their story, right? We never know what they have experienced. And quite frankly, y'all, some people are carrying around incredible stories. And in a related way, in a deeper way, what this reminded me of is the incredible resilience some people have, right? Especially people who are immigrants, right? I mean, if you look at what people who came to this country, right? And I don't care if they came, legally, illegally, but people that came to this country, right? What they had to go through, what they experienced, what they survived is amazing. And quite frankly, it really puts into perspective, especially the people that are out there, those white people. And I am a white person, yes, but there are those white people out there, a lot of those MAGA types, right? Who are disparaging these folks, who are saying these folks don't belong here, who's saying all of this. And quite frankly, who in their hearts and in their words increasingly have an attitude of white supremacy. And what that means in its clearest form is that the white person, the white race is inherently superior to everyone else. And that is wrong. That is evil. That is sinful. That is against the creation that God has made. That is just flat wrong. Because what makes a person amazing, what makes a person a solid, good person, I believe, is not inherently the color of their skin. It's the character that they hold within them, right? And someone that's out trolling on the internet, pointing fingers, talking about those people, all that garbage, that's a poor character, right? That is not a strong person. That may be a bully. That may be an obnoxious person. That may be a very sick, deranged person. And quite frankly, right now, y'all, those are people who are in power, right? A certain kind of power. And yet, when I look at this young woman, she's young. She's probably maybe mid-20s at most. And the one question I did ask as a follow-up is, how old were you when you left that camp? Just to kind of get an idea of how long ago this was. She said 13. So that might be less than 10 years, maybe 15 years removed. What has she seen? What has she experienced? What has she gone through? And most importantly, y'all, this isn't to lionize her, to hold her up, because I'm sure she has her shortcomings. I'm sure she has whatever, because we all do, right? But what kind of resilience has she and the people closest to her, her family members, what have they shown? And do they not deserve better from those people in power, especially those people that are seeming to take pleasure and pride and all kinds of crazy stuff in literally grabbing people off of the street, detaining them, and sending them to all kinds of crazy places, right? All right, y'all. I guess I had a lot to say tonight, and I just feel grateful, honestly, deeply grateful that I can be in the presence of a young woman like this who I have something to teach her. I'm training her, right? But she has so much to teach the rest of us. And I just wish more people were open to that and in places where they can have those interactions, because that's part of the problem too. A lot of those MAGA people are in places where they're not going to encounter people like this young woman. And even if they do, they're not going to seek a conversation, right? So we got some challenges. All right, I want to close with a prayer that I read today that does give me hope, and this is in the Centering Prayers book that I share from often, and this is it here. It is: God of now and then, here and there, I wait in silence for truth to shape itself in me. Mold the darkness of my mind with the light of your wisdom, fired in the kiln of your love. You are forming Christ in me through this journey into love, goodness, and wisdom. Thank you for this purpose that gives holy meaning to my lifetime. All right, y'all. I appreciate your listening. Hope to write tomorrow. I do enjoy the writing, and I hope you do as well. As always, leave comments like this. That really helps me to kind of know who's listening, who's watching, get some feedback. That's always really helpful. And it helps more people to see me in Substack, which, I hope to grow the influence and the range and the people who can listen and watch. So again, y'all, as always, thanks. Blessing and good. Be bold. Be well.